Chapter 2, Missing. He slowed for a better look, formulating a plan for confrontation. As the bike approached, he went over the plan in his head. Stop, dump the bike, grab the taser, and take control of the situation. He slowed more, letting the familiar-looking bike get closer, and then he executed his plan. He screeched to a halt, laid his bike down, and pulled out his taser. He pointed it at the rider, who surprisingly didn't even hesitate to approach. "That's far enough," he shouted. The rider stopped casually, staring at him through the tinted visor of the helmet. Jude noticed a waft of blonde hair, the end of a ponytail, blowing out behind her. The rider slid off her helmet and looked incredulously at Jude. "If you shoot that taser at me, I will beat you senseless as soon as I recover." "Maisy Marin Kane, what in the world do you think you're doing?" shouted Jude. "Have you lost your ever-loving mind?" "Are those questions or statements?" she quipped. "We're almost 50 kilometers from the sack," Jude calculated. "I know. Why do you think I waited to catch up to you?" "I didn't want it to be too easy for you to haul me back home," she said. "You're impossible," he shouted, throwing up his hands. "What about Mom and Dad? They're going to be terrified when they find out you're gone." "Did you at least leave a note?" Jude asked in his best big brother scolding tone he could muster. "Yes, and they left me one too. At least Dad did. I found extra protein bars in my pack and a note that said, 'I figured you couldn't bear to sit out such an adventure. Be safe and tell your brother to calm down.'" "He did not write that," Jude said unconvincingly. Maisy reached into her pack, pulled it out, and handed it to him. "He's even sneakier than you." "Like father, like daughter." "Well, we'd better keep an eye out for a good stopping place. Daylight will run out on us pretty quickly," Jude said, finally surrendering. "Remember, no matter what, stay close. You lead the way. You already know I can follow you." They traveled down the road, occasionally slowing or stopping for a downed tree or other obstruction, but overall, Jude was happy with their progress. As dusk began to threaten, Jude spotted a thin column of smoke in the distance, and he pointed it out to Maisy. They turned onto a trail that appeared to lead to the source of the smoke. Suddenly, a pine branch swung into Jude, knocking him off his bike. He tumbled a few times and then jumped back onto his feet. He took his helmet off to find a thin, wild-eyed, dark-haired woman standing behind Maisy with a knife to her throat. Here are some insights. Maisy doesn't like to be put in a box. I think that's pretty obvious. She's the youngest. She doesn't like to be told what to do or told what she can't do. But she's not just stubborn for the sake of being stubborn. She is intelligent and she recognizes a need and she's willing to sacrifice to help meet that need, even when other people don't want her to put herself in danger or risk anything. Um, and she's practical that way. So she insisted on coming with Jude, not just because she, obviously doesn't want to miss out on the adventure, but she also knows if they get into a situation, they're better off with two people, especially because she's got some medical skills that could really help if he gets hurt or something on the way. It's a long way to go. Um, they're out in wide open spaces. There's not a lot of people around, and it's just a lot safer to do it with two people. The reason there are so many wide open spaces is because at this point there basically are no more farms. There are farms, but they are run by an organization called CAMO. That is another acronym, Consolidated Agricultural and Mining Operations, and basically it's a single company, a single organization that handles all of the crop growing and mining and anything that really has to do with the land, and they own large swaths of land, kind of like the Bureau of Land Management manages large swaths of forest in the United States. And so independent farms are really kind of a thing of the past. People have kind of consolidated into the cities. They don't want to, but they've had to out of during the transition. They were starving and they were homeless and there was nothing they could do, and the only source of assistance comes from the cities. So you see this kind of consolidation, and so there are very few people that live out in the country, except, of course, for the Sacks. Now, when I say bike, again, if you've not read the whole chapter, you might be thinking bicycle. No, they're motorcycles, but they're electric motorcycles. Of course, this is in the future. A lot more things are electric, and what's kind of gotten us over the hump, which really kind of has let internal combustion engines kind of fall away, is the invention of solid state batteries, which is actually something, if you're kind of familiar with technology now, is something that companies have been working on, and it's really a game changer, and they're almost there, but there's just some final hurdles that have been really difficult. There actually is one company called Donut Labs. If you're really a tech person and you want to look this up, look up Donut Labs. CES 2025. It was the trade show in Las Vegas for consumer electronics, and this company claims to have really figured out solid state batteries. Using local materials, they can create batteries that are much, much lighter because they don't have liquid. So they can produce the same amount of power with much less weight. So that lets them go so much further. So anyway, and actually one of the things that are actually in production right now are motorcycles, electric motorcycles with solid state batteries, and they have an incredible range. Actually, they've set records. So I'm just kind of taking that to a logical conclusion. And of course, with people consolidating into the cities, you don't have rural areas connected very well. So, a lot of infrastructure has just gone to ruin. You're not going to maintain roads that nobody's using. It's expensive, especially because in the future, a lot of, at least in the world of New America, a lot of freight is delivered by drone and train. So, rather than paying to maintain roads everywhere, the system has decided it's cheaper to use smaller freight containers and ship them by drone and get them directly where they need to go, rather than putting them on trucks and taking them over the road and having to maintain those roads. So they are in remote areas that still do have roads, but obviously they haven't been maintained in decades, and so they're crumbling, and they've got to watch out for downed trees and things like that. So anyway, if that kind of gives you a little more context into this world that they're living in, obviously I left you on a bit of a cliffhanger, but stay tuned. Chapter 3 is coming, and we'll find out what happens. Maisy, she's not one to be tossed around, so I think she's going to be okay.